wish it was a nice, more pleasant voice instead of a robotic voice, but yes, the meeting is being recorded, it's official. So with that said, to really acknowledge this moment in time of having you join us, and also on this historic day of the March on Washington that occurred over 57 years ago, in terms of really advocating and ensuring that social justice, civil rights continue to be at the forefront of our country, and our leadership is so important. So not to put the pressure on you, Mr. Darrell Walker, but I believe you have a very important and really magical musical gift to share to embody what you call a God encounter. So I will turn it over to you and just encourage you to make sure that you unmute yourself, and we'll start.
Thank you. Test. Thank you so much. This is Darrell J. Walker, pronouns he, him, his, and I am excited to, as we say, create the God encounter on this historic day, yes. So it's a journey through time with music, but also with a message that has been prepared for each of you. To our new students, I invite you, if you have gifts and talents to share, that you can email me at dwilker@iliff.edu, because it's about you, it's about me, it's about all of us building the Iliff community. So we start, lest we forget the Native Americans whose land was taken. That pause for the cause. The Tinker endowment at Iliff reminds us and holds Iliff accountable to the bridge we continue to build. This is a chant which just says, hey ya, hey ya. It's a call to the ancestors, but also connects us to nature. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Yay, yay, bangay, yay, yay, bangay, yay, yay, bangay. Ah, yay, yay, bangay, yay, yay, bangay, yay, yay, bangay. Ah, yay, yay, bangay, yay, 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 bangay. Ah, bangay. Nuestra cultura. Ah, nuestra cultura. And that chant just simply says, in my native tongue, but also in some Espanol, it says, our culture, remember to celebrate who you are. We are a circle within a circle, with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle, with no beginning and never ending. We are a circle within a circle, with no beginning and never ending. Fanga alafia, ashe, ashe. Fanga alafia, ashe, ashe. Fanga alafia, we welcome you. Fanga alafia, with peace and love too. Fanga alafia, we welcome you. Fanga alafia, with peace and love too. Yes. Iliff, over 125 years, this time-honored hymn, God of the Ages. Just listen to the timeless message. Refresh thy people on their toilsome way. Lead us from night to never dying day. Fill all our lives with love and grace divine, and glory, Lord, and praise be ever thine. Kiva Moed. Kiva Moed. It just simply says, the time is now. The time is now. The time is now. Kiva Moed. Kiva Moed. Kiva Moed. Kiva Moed. BLM. George Floyd. March on Washington. Until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. Yes, in the words of Bernice Johnson Reagan, Ella's song, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Sing a new world into being, where each gender, class, and race brings its rainbow gifts and colors to God's limitless embrace, where the lines that once were divided form instead the ties that bind. Sing a new world into being, risk transforming heart and mind. Remember, we are building up a new world. We are building up a new world. We are building up a new world. Builders must be strong. We are seeking justice for all. We are seeking justice for all. We are seeking justice for all. Won't stop till it comes. Whoa. Remember, I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. Look out, because here I come. This is me, this is you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Daryl. That's beautiful. And what a way to start the day. Thank you all once again for joining us. We are going to just review the remainder of our program. I don't know if it's going to top that, that's for sure. But just to make sure that we all have some understanding of how we're going to spend the rest of our time today, I just wanted to walk through the agenda. Thank you again, Daryl. What a beautiful offering. We're going to take a little time to introduce all of these lovely faces that are here online. We're going to engage in a really rich dialogue with members of our faculty about the relevancy of, or not relevancy, but really how do we engage in this world, in this time, in this place through theological education. You also have an opportunity to take a sample class with a few of our faculty members. We'll take a brief break, and then we'll end our program with an opportunity to engage with members of our student success team, including admissions, academic advising, financial aid, several of our student ambassadors, as well as professional formation and spiritual formation. So with that said, I want to thank Daryl once again, and you are welcome to reach out to him directly at dwilker@iliff.edu. And I would also like to ask our president and our senior vice president of academic affairs and dean of faculty to introduce themselves and get us kicked off.
Thank you, Stephanie. Can we have the whole screen? Is that possible? I prefer FaceTime. Good morning, everyone. I trust it's morning wherever you're calling in from, but maybe not. Whatever time it is, welcome to Iliff. One of my favorite things to do in my role is to welcome people to Iliff. So this is my happy moment. So welcome to Iliff. Just a word about me. My pronouns are him, his, and he. I am an ordained United Methodist clergy person. I've served in the parish. I'm affiliated with the Upper New York Conference of the United Methodist Church. I'm theologically educated, obviously. And I also have I've served in parishes, and then early in my career, I was given the opportunity to take a swerve, and I could either go into another parish or become a university chaplain, and something appealed to me about university chaplaincy, so I began that and fell in love with higher education, completed my PhD in higher ed administration, and so I've got two voices in my head all the time, and that is the voice that comes from a progressive theological education, and all that comes with that, and a love for the possibility of what institutions, when they align themselves with that deeper thinking, can do for the world. And so those are the two voices that are always in my head. I was at Syracuse University before I arrived at Iliff, where I had been the chaplain and the dean of the university chapel there, and then senior vice president, dean of student affairs in my last 5 years there. So we welcome you, and I'll have a chance to visit with you a little bit more, but welcome to Iliff. We're very glad to have this time that we can share with you. Boyoung?
Hi, thank you. Welcome to Iliff, and this is like a time very meaningful moment for me. So my name is Boyoung Lee, which is a Korean name, means treasure by the water, and Stephanie introduced me with a very long title, but the people here simply call me the dean, and as Daryl always calls me the dean, but I prefer to be called the Boyoung, if you feel comfortable. And like a president, I am also ordained the United Methodist clergy, but I came from Korea because in early 90s, as a woman, I couldn't be ordained. So I had to cross the Pacific to say yes to the call that I felt. And so, but in the middle of pursuing my ordination call, and I also fell in love with the study. So I became both local church pastor and theological educator. But the last 15 years, I served theological school in Berkeley, California, where our president got his Master of Divinity degree, which is very progressive school like Iliff. And then I have been watching Iliff for a long time, and this was one of the few less than 3 schools that I wanted to be associated with in this challenging time, but also very creative time that we are all in. So when opportunity came, I just jumped, and I'm here, and I'm very proud that Iliff is my intellectual home and my also home here. And so I hope you feel that sense that many of us feel during even this virtual visiting time. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Boy Young. I guess we'll just follow suit. Instead of using some of the slides, if I can call on the enrollment team members, which include Goldie, Gabe, and Daniel, to introduce themselves, and then we'll introduce other members of our student success team. Oh, and I guess I'm the one that needs to start. I apologize. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Stephanie Cruz-Mark, Vice President of Enrollment Management. I've just joined the Iliff community as of early June. As you can see, we've pivoted pretty quickly in terms of engaging prospective students through our virtual environment. I have had the blessing and opportunity to work in higher ed for the last 18 years, 19 years or so, and most of that time has been in strategic enrollment and recruitment with a lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. And so when this opportunity came about, I immediately knew this was going to be my next institutional home, and just so delighted to get to know each and every one of you more throughout the day. Now I'll turn it over to my team members. Carl.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Brother Daniel Klewater. I've been working in Iliff admissions as an admissions rep for 5 years and 7 months. And I'm also a graduate of the school, did my MDiv, graduated in 2002 with a Justice and Peace Studies concentration. And then spent about 12 years in the labor movement and low-wage worker community organizing. And then came back to work here at Iliff, and this is one of my favorite things to do in my job. Data entry is really important. We all have to do that, but seeing faces and meeting students who may decide to join our community is the best part of the day. So thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gabriel Fisher, and like Daniel, I am an admissions rep for Iliff School of Theology. I have been at Iliff for a little over a year, and I've been in higher education for just about 10 years, primarily in outreach and recruitment, but I've also done academic advising and internship coordination. So welcome to everybody. Glad to see everyone's face, and we will learn more about you as the morning goes. Thanks.
Good morning and happy Friday. My name is Goldie Ector, and I am your financial aid director. I bring 15 years of experience, but I've only been here at Iliff for a little over a year, and I absolutely love it. So any of the resources that you need as far as scholarships and federal aid, I am your go-to person. So welcome to the open house, and I hope that you have a good time.
And if our Dean's team could introduce themselves, starting with Betsy.
Hey y'all, I'm Betsy Lay. I work in the Dean's office doing all sorts of things. I primarily work behind the scenes with our faculty and our adjunct instructors. And I also am the gatekeeper to Bo Young's calendar. So I try really hard to give her some days off every once in a while. So if you ever need to meet with the dean, you can contact me. And then, yeah, just all sorts of other academic program management duties. I have been at Iliff since around the same time Daniel was there. So whenever that is, five years or so. Yeah, and it's a great place and I really like it a lot. So welcome. I'm glad y'all are here.
Carmen?
My name is Carmen Baca-Duster. I'm the registrar at Iliff. I've been at Iliff way too long, 33 3/4 years. So anyway, it's a great place. We welcome you. I work with VA students, so if you have that, if you need some information there, I can help you out. I work with international students, and I do transcripts, help with registration, make sure you talk to your advisor. But if you ever need guidance on your degree audit and you're not sure about it, you can contact me. Email's the best way to contact me, but you can also call. So it's good to see you, good to get to see some faces. It helps a lot to see faces because I am sure I've spoken with some of you and seeing that face is really nice.
We also have two more people who you will meet later part of this morning, Dr. Samantha Zhu and Dr. Jeremy Garber, who are academic advisors. They make sure that you take right courses, you are right on track for the graduation, but also they both have a PhDs and they have been college professors and theological education and nonprofit founder and manager and authors. So they also, if you want, they can provide also a lot of helpful conversations on your this vocational discernment. Very approachable people you will meet soon.
Thank you, Dean Lee. If I could ask Reverend Dr. Kathy Kelsey to introduce herself.
Sure. It is good to see all of you, and I look forward to meeting some of you in the session on spiritual formation later this afternoon. I am the Dean of the Chapel and Spiritual Formation. That is a faculty position in which I am responsible for thinking about the whole, but I'm also responsible very specifically for the ritual functions of the school. And that has continued to be a pleasure and an opportunity for me to learn in conjunction with student partners as we figure out how to craft spiritual experiences that support us in the wide diversity of traditions and not having a tradition at all that students, faculty, and staff come to Iliff, and to find ways to engage with the depth in ourselves and the depth in each other in community is the core of how I think about that. That's half of my job. The other half of my job is in the Gerald L. Schlesman professorship in Methodist Studies. I'm an ordained United Methodist clergy person and have served in all 5 jurisdictions in the United States. I have served as the pastor in charge of congregations for 10 years. And served for a couple of years as the chairperson of the Board of Ordained Ministry for the Mountain Sky Annual Conference. So I come to the work of thinking about Methodist history and doctrine and polity with a wide view of the church and with a passion for its renewal, reformation, revitalization, starting over, whatever it takes in this transition time that we're in. So I look forward to working with a wide range of students who are in my tradition and students who share a sense of spirituality that is contemplative and beyond.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Stephanie, you're muted.
Thank you. I was going to say, I'm sure you can see we have other faculty members that have joined us, as well as a few current students. And while I want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to introduce themselves, we will have other opportunities to engage with our faculty and current students. I'd now like to actually get to know each and every one of you. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself by your preferred name, preferred pronouns if you'd like, what program you're interested in, our programs, where you're zooming in from, and then I will turn it over to our president and Dean Lee to kind of talk a little bit more about why Iliff. So with that said, future Iliff students, please feel free to unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Oh, I'm gonna have to call on names. Let's see. Bill, you are first and on my view. Would you mind introducing yourself? And just it mutes you. So if on the left-hand corner of your screen, there should be a little microphone where you can unmute.
Yep.
There you go.
Got it. And can you hear me now? My video seems to have frozen on me here. So, all right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name's Bill Kettlewell, and I'm coming to you from Georgetown, Texas. What you see here is my home office right now because my company's been working remotely for, well, since March. So for a long time now. And not sure what to say. I'm currently a teacher of electrical markets and geeky stuff like that, as my brother likes to say. And I've been exploring a call to ministry for some time now. The timing just has never seemed quite right. And all of a sudden, as I'm getting toward the end of my current career, I started thinking about things, and I suddenly started getting calls from Iliff because I had reached out to Iliff once before. So, I figure it's time to start exploring again. So as far as the program that I'm interested in, not entirely sure at the moment. Time will tell.
Thank you so much, Bill. Welcome. Anna.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna Hamilton, and I am zooming in from DeLand, Florida, which is near Daytona, and I go to Stetson University there, and I am a math major. I'll be graduating in May, which is fun, and I'm also a religious studies minor, and I think what I've most gotten from being at Stetson is my student employee job, where I work for our Center for Community Engagement. And so I help create opportunities for students to do needed work in the community that solves pressing community problems and stuff like that. So that's been really awesome during my time at Stetson. And now exploring some sort of call to ministry and seeing what that looks like, and potentially interested in a Master of Divinity program.
Thank you, Anna. Welcome.
Thank you.
Ethan.
Hello. I am Ethan Edwards. I am a senior at Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois. And I'm zooming in from my dorm room because I am an RA here in the lovely Watterson Towers. I am a business management major, but I got interested in Iliff back when I went to the Exploration Conference in 2019 down in Orlando, Florida, and taking a few of my first steps into looking into what going to school at Iliff would be like. And I'm planning on graduating in May this year and going to Iliff to get a master's in divinity.
Welcome, Ethan.
Oh, and my pronouns are he, him.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jax.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. My name is Jax, and my pronouns are they, them. I'm super excited to be a part of this video chat stuff today. Iliff has really been pretty new on my radar, as I very recently have gotten back into church. It's been a very interesting journey, but it's amazing what the heart calls for and what comes upon the heart. So that being said, I have been feeling a very strong pull towards the chaplaincy program, getting a Master's of Divinity with that specialty in the chaplaincy, and I'm feeling a really big draw towards prison chaplaincy specifically, and showing up in solidarity with our liberation workers and inmates who are presently held within prison walls. And then hopefully with that wonderful combination that you all have with the university that allows for counseling to also be a part of that. So big interest there. And I am listening in and watching in from Boise, Idaho today. So thanks for having me.
Welcome, Jax. Glad that you're here. Jasmine.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jasmine. My preferred pronouns are she and they. I am calling in from Long Beach, California. So from my understanding, it's not too far away from where the school is. The program that I've been looking into would be the social justice master's program that you guys offer, because from my background, like counseling and psychology has like been a calling for me. And a lot of the times, a lot of those problems or issues that happen with mental health tends to be because of the environment that we grow up in, and a lot of the times is because of social inequality for all of our POC citizens, especially here in the United States, given everything that's been happening over the past 2 months. So yeah, no, the social justice program is one of the biggest things that I would love to apply to in the future.
Thank you so much for being here, Jasmine. Amanda.
Hi, my name is Amanda Stuckey Dodson, and I use she, her pronouns. I am a social worker, clinical social worker by undergrad and graduate, and work as a therapist right now. And I am interested in the PhD program because I think over the last year have really gotten very, very interested in how people make meaning out of suffering in their lives and other people's lives. I'm interested in Iliff because I was raised and confirmed Methodist, although I've wandered a bit. It still kind of feels like a spiritual home to me, and I like that Iliff seems quite progressive. I think that's everything. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Jess, I know you're joining us as a guest, but please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jess Adams, and I actually had the great pleasure of meeting Stephanie recently through an enrollment professional kind of connection. I am the director of admissions at Aquinas Institute of Theology in St. Louis, Missouri. And in this crazy COVID world where we are switching all of the things to digital, and as a new enrollment professional, I was really excited to kind of come and see how Iliff has put together this really awesome virtual open house. So thank you for letting me join as a guest. And this is actually really fun. So thanks for having me here.
Thanks for being here, Jess. Maggie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Good morning. My name's Maggie, and I'm actually based out of Birmingham, Alabama. I actually serve currently as the Director of Congregational Care at a Methodist church here in Birmingham, and have for 11 years. I'm getting my pastor's license right now. I'm in that process, but definitely considering taking it another step and pursuing a Master of Divinity to be able to serve in the conference that I'm in, and hopefully, you know, edge Alabama slowly forward in any kind of progressive direction we can. So there, I mean, I'm probably the black sheep on here, old. I've got 2 kids, one in college, one in high school, but nonetheless, it's never too late to start a new direction.
Absolutely. We're thrilled that you're here to join us today, Maggie. With that said, I realize our agenda is very organic right now this morning, but I would like to turn the mic over to Tom and Boy Young, maybe share a little bit more about why Iliff, and then we'll transition into our faculty panel.
Great, thank you. I was intrigued. I was taking some notes, so I got to find my notes here for just a second. Who is the social worker? Ah, thank you.
That's me.
I'm married to a woman who's also ordained United Methodist clergy and a licensed clinical social worker. And she's on the other side of the house right now, meeting with her clients via Zoom. So those worlds do come together. They do come together. It's wonderful to hear the beginnings of your stories. And again, welcome to Iliff. We just love hearing these stories. One of the things that intrigues me every time I hear the introductions of people who are looking at Iliff for theological education, what confirms for me some things. It confirms for me the fact that I personally would not want to be in a theological school that was very narrowly Christian, because the world doesn't structure it isn't that way any longer. I mean, it just isn't. And most of my career has actually been around interreligious work, interfaith work. And so with emerging spiritualities and so forth, the thing I appreciate about Iliff and its long history is that it is sensitive to all of those and embracing of all of those. So that's one of the reasons that I like to work here. But the other thing that, as you introduce yourselves, it confirms for me every single time that everybody in this place has a common experience, and that is everybody's got some form of what I like to call the interruption story. In other words, you might have been in a major in college and you thought your trajectory was in a particular way. You might have been settled in a career and you thought that was the defining role of your life, and all of that is good and wonderful. But all of a sudden you see something, you feel something, you experience something, and it gets down deep inside of you and you find yourself having to deal with it and you can't ignore it anymore. And so by joining this community, just know that you will be joining a community of people who understand what that experience is, because it's happened to virtually all of us in one way or another. And so you would be understood in a deep way. So there are some, so thank you for listening to it and to responding to it and seeking ways to find expression for it. And we would love to partner with you on that. Some hopes I would have for all students who come to Iliff, and that would be, bring your past with you, please. I think sometimes we think we're entering a new chapter in our life and we just put whatever we've done in the past, like it has no bearing on what is going on in your new future. And I would invite you to think about your past and your experiences as essential to the educational environment that we have here. And our community of people embody a rich variety of experiences, and we all learn from them all the time, in class, between classes, and so please don't check your past at the door. Please bring it as a gift to the whole community. I would also invite you to, find a relationship that you resonate with the faculty or somebody that has joined you in your journey as you've been at Iliff. The reason is we don't think of our work as extending with you only during the time that you're experiencing your degree. you're working on a degree. We see this as a lifelong process. And as we emerge as an institution, as we evolve as an institution, we are realizing even more importantly how we want to see a commitment that Iliff makes to you as a lifelong commitment. And so we are also developing outward-facing experiences for our alumni and new friends and new learners at Iliff as part of our future. And you would be very much a part of that, well into your, whatever you end up doing after you graduate from Iliff. So remember that we see it as a lifelong experience, and find those people to stay connected to, and they will. Also, there will be moments, and we don't make apologies for this whatsoever. There will be moments when we ask you to take a deep look at who you are and how you are, and within you, and how you own those formational pieces that give rise to how you see the other. We all have been formed by some cultural influences. And this is the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is the work. We see this as critically important, essential to the formation of anybody who is influenced by Iliff. We do not apologize that this is challenging. We don't. Because, but when you find yourself feeling uncomfortable, and you will, I ask you to pause. Then I ask you to think ahead in time to the communities of people you are going to serve. And I want you to imagine relating to those diverse communities of people. And to know, and then I want you to take a deep breath. And then walk closer to that which is the most uncomfortable thing. Because those communities that you are going to serve need you to have done this work. Today, we also remember Jacob Blake. And we know that there are whole communities of people that haven't done this work. And we need to stand in tension with that, with the work that we do. And I would also add these words, that we don't see Iliff as immune from the constant mindfulness of needing to do this work as an institution. We can never take for granted that because we teach this, that we are immune from it. So we live as honestly as we know how in a transparent way so that our mindfulness stays sharp as an institution. Because in one of my deep, part of those two parts of my brain that are always talking to each other, institutions and how they run teach. They just teach by how they run. And no institution is perfect. But we have committed to struggle to be mindful and to own our history and to move forward in new ways. So those are the things that we hold very closely here. And we welcome you into this holistic environment of religious diversity, other forms of diversity, and a mindset that we hope is authentic and engage you not just while you're here, but in the future. And so, again, my favorite words to all of you are welcome. Welcome. Have a wonderful day. I won't be with you for all of it. I've got some other things I've got to do, but but you are in wonderful hands with our faculty and our staff, and I can't wait for you to get to know them even better. So welcome, Iliff. Boyoung.
Thank you, Tom. I think I am one of the examples of what Tom said, the interruption moment. And I said I had to cross the Pacific to take that interruption in my life seriously. But another big interruption I made was coming to Iliff about 3 years ago. And, Berkeley, California, some people call it paradise. So when I said I'm leaving, everybody said, "Are you crazy that you're leaving the Bay Area?" I said, yes, Iliff is exciting enough for me to be crazy to leave. Because having been in theological education as a full-time faculty for about 18 years, I have seen a lot of changes. And also, as someone who is committed to social justice, I said why I came to the United States, and also I was very heavily involved in democratization movement of Korea that shaped my theological perspective. So social justice in my ministry, that including my teaching work, is at the center. So if you look at, I know you are checking out a lot of schools. No schools in any world say that they are oppressive school. Everyone says that they are committed to some sort of justice. So no one says that they are oppressive, even though we know some schools have a very oppressive values that they demand the people even to sign to work there. So as a theologian, as a theological educator, what I've been paying attention to is who is embodying the commitment to social justice in their own life, especially in their teaching. And Iliff was one of the, as I said, 3, 4, even maybe less than 5 schools in North American theological schools that I was paying attention to as a school that is embodying the value, especially our faculty. So, so it's something about our faculty that you will meet some of them. We have students come from 43 different states and other countries. And even though we are one of the United Methodist theological schools, we have about 1/3 of our students who are not even Christians. And our United Methodist students, even among Christians, is about also 1/3. And then we have about LGBTQIA identifying students, about 1/3 of our student population. So what does this mean? When you are in classroom, our faculty just cannot attach to one tradition or one religious, even within Christianity or Protestantism. So our faculty is internationally known scholars and leaders and teachers. Not only they are, they have their own standing, but also they know how to work with the students from such diverse backgrounds, and then making classroom a place for you to grow your own leadership in this changing world that demographically, religiously, our country is dramatically changing. And also racial justice and social justice, economic justice, gender justice, it's just the front and center of what we do. So I want to be part of that great faculty and the institution that has a culture to nurture and support, also even confront and admit, as Tom said. So, so I don't regret that I have left Berkeley, beautiful San Francisco Bay Area, because you can be in a nice location, but if your spirit is not fed, because your work shouldn't be just work, but it should be also vocational call. And it's not common to find that your work becomes a source of your spiritual nurturing. So I find working with our students and working with my colleagues and staff and faculty colleagues, it's very inspiration, even, push me to be even more cutting edge scholars, but also push me to be a better person because I have to embody that in our own relationships. So our board of trustees and our entire staff and our entire faculty and our students last year went through year-long anti-racism, anti-white supremacy training and it will continue this year. And when I share this with my other dean friends in other schools, they say, how do you do that? How do you make a faculty do that? I said, I don't have to make that, because we are committed. We want to be better, even though we are better than a lot of schools. So I want you to pay attention to what we call not only explicit curriculum, that what you learn, but implicit curriculum, how we do it, and also pay attention to a null curriculum, what is not there, what is missing, so that you bring those perspectives, so that our classroom, our life together at Iliff is richer because of that, because we want to own it and we want to be better. We want to be we want to better our institution, our life together. And also you will hear from our faculty in your classrooms. So you can learn all about theories, but what does it mean to you in your own communities? So they will push you to engage what you learn and then interpret and embody that in your own context. So not only our textbooks, what our faculty teach is important, but what you bring is equally important. I think that's what we call often living text. So take your living text seriously and bring that to your learning. And I'm sure you will be delighted that you made a choice to work with this great set of faculty and staff and fellow students. Thank you.
Tom, Boy Young, thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about your own interruption stories and what draws you to the work and makes you passionate and how you lead. In just a moment here, we're all going to get an opportunity to engage with our amazing faculty that have joined us today, and a really rich dialogue about what's going on in the world, how their specific traditions or areas of study really are contributing to the conversation to help you shape and form your calling as well. Before we do, I have to do a little housekeeping work, but beforehand, I can see Tom making this motion, so I know this means.
I wish you all the best. Welcome again to Iliff. Have a great day. Have a wonderful day. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Tom. So I'm going to share my screen one more time, and we're going to do a quick interactive exercise very quickly as a group. One is, before we start our faculty panel, I'm going to let you know what sample classes we have available today. We'd love to know which one you'd like to join. And then we're going to go through a series of 2 student success breakout sessions. They're each 30 minutes in time, and you are able to choose your preference. So I'm going to flash on the screen here real quick the options that we have today that are offered. We have an introduction to the Gospel of John offered by Reverend Dr. Eric Smith, who will be on our faculty panel here in a moment. We also have Preaching in Spiritual Leadership offered by Dr. Ujun Mary Kim, who will be joining us pretty soon. And then we also have Spiritual Care During a Pandemic with Reverend Dr. Carrie Doring, who is also going to be joining the faculty panel as well. So keep that in mind. And in a moment here, I'm going to give you a form where you can actually share your preference. And then in terms of the student success breakout sessions, we have 6 for you to choose from. Probably a little overwhelming, but if you have questions about admissions, you'll have an opportunity to engage with Brother Daniel and Gabe. If it's about financial aid or scholarships, you'll have an opportunity to engage with Goldie Ector, our Director of Financial Aid. We will have Dr. Sam Ju join us for academic advising. Aaron Lorvik will join us for professional formation. We had an opportunity to meet Reverend Dr. Kathy Kelsey earlier, and she'll be talking about spiritual formation. And then finally, we have 2 of our students that are online with us, Dennis and Sam, who are enrolled in the Master of Divinity program, happy to answer any questions that you might have about being an Iliff student. So with that said, I'm going to try to get my technology to work here, and I'm going to share in the chat feature a link to an interactive form and just ask that you take a minute or so to choose your sample class and breakout session. And then we will go into, oops, sorry, I sent that directly to Ethan. There we go. Then we'll go into our faculty panel. If everyone is able to click on that link, just give me a thumbs up. And perfect, okay. Results are coming in. And then I will turn it back over to Boyoung here. It's a test. We'll give you all about 60 more seconds or a minute. And thank you for doing this ahead of time. It just helps us set up the breakout rooms so we can easily go along in our program. Okay. Thank you, Jasmine, for your note. Again, this we'll be happy to share the recording so that you can watch it as a resource, and it'll be posted on our YouTube channel by next week. Great. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the virtual microphone back over to my colleague, Dean Lee.
Thank you. So this morning we have three esteemed faculty colleagues joining. So I'm going to invite Dr. Hernandez and Doring and Smith in that order to introduce briefly who they are, and including some classes you teach and topics that you write about.
Sure. Good morning and welcome to all of you. Thank you for your interest in the Iliff School of Theology and our programs. I teach broadly in the history of Christianity, which has allowed me to be a generalist, but I have a number of specializations. I'm very much focused in the Middle Ages and the early modern period. I'm interested especially in the medieval encounter between Islam and Christianity, beginning with the Crusades. I do a lot of work on medieval Spain and early modern Spain, and also Spain in the American Southwest. I do a lot of coursework on the Holy Spirit and on the history of mysticism. And I'm originally from Florida, by the way, so I grew up in the Cuban exile community in South Florida. My family is from Cuba, though I was born and raised in the US. And over the last couple of years, I've become extremely interested in the history of medicine, particularly also ancient and medieval approaches to healing. Before COVID-19, I was already on that trajectory. I'm even more interested in it now. And by the time school opens on Monday the 14th, I will probably have read 40 books this summer on that whole area. So I will be adding courses in the future on those subjects.
Thank you. Also, Dr. Hernandez was my predecessor. He was in Dean's office for 9 years, 9 good years.
Thank you.
I'll go next. I'm Carrie Doring, and I direct the Masters of Arts in Pastoral and Spiritual Care. I'm ordained in the Presbyterian Church USA and spent the first 10 years of my profession as a Presbyterian minister in Canada, where I grew up. And I'm also licensed as a clinical psychologist. My primary vocation, though, is teaching and writing. And I teach and write a lot about post-traumatic stress, moral stress and moral injury, and how to prepare chaplains who are competent in interreligious, evidence-based, socially just spiritual care. And I've been doing a lot of collaborative projects since the pandemic with chaplains who work on the front line. Very poignant time. And there's been a lot of research and publication about which aspects of religion and spirituality help people cope with stressors of our current context, pandemic, financial crisis, and of course the lament over systemic racism and all the violence that comes out of systemic racism. So there's a lot of really good work being done to understand when religion and spirituality help in these kind of crises and struggles, and when they're harmful and contribute to prejudice. Really interested in meeting all of you. Welcome.
Dr. Doring's books are the major textbook in most North American pastoral care classes, also translated into multiple languages and used in other countries. Okay, Dr. Eric C. Smith.
Good morning, I'm Eric, he, him, his. I teach in early Christianity and New Testament here. I teach classes ranging from the New Testament introduction course to classes on the Gospel of John, classes on Matthew. I just did a class on the book of Acts that Samuel Fisher was in. He's in the call today. This fall, I'm teaching a new course I'm very excited about called Queering Early Christianity, where we apply the lens of queer theory to the early parts of the Christian tradition. And I'm super excited about that one. It's 3 weeks before class starts, and people are already posting stuff because everybody's just excited. I am originally from North Carolina. I've been in Denver about 13 years. I came out here actually to do my PhD at the Iliff School of Theology in the University of Denver. And this is the beginning of my 7th year on the faculty full-time. I'm glad to be here.
Great. And also he's ordained the Disciples of Christ minister. He's still serving a church. Practitioners together. So for the next maybe about 30 minutes, I like to engage our faculty. So we all know that we are living through a time that in our entire life we haven't experienced. And uncertainty in local, regional, national, and global level, and unknowns, pandemics and racial justice movement, and police brutality, and neoliberal global market that make people a product or consumer, including students. So in this very uncertain time and the world, I like to ask my faculty colleagues, how can theological education help to create some solutions to this unknown world? Why theology matters in this time?
Well, I could jump in there and start us off. You know, there was some really helpful research that came out just after the pandemic started that measured physiological symptoms of coronavirus anxiety. So, you know, when you hear a news report and it makes you anxious and your whole system revs up because there's that life threat you're experiencing more physiologically initially. So they developed a measure of coronavirus anxiety, those physiological occurrences. And perhaps not surprisingly, it correlated highly. That meant as coronavirus anxiety increased, religious struggles with God increased. And religious struggles with God often measure how people experience God as judge, sort of the angry, judging, punitive God. And then along with that, despair increased, suicidal thoughts increased, and addictive coping increased. There's some emerging research, it's complicated to understand, that religious and spiritual and moral struggles mediate the relationship between coronavirus, a stressor like coronavirus, and anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress. So if we can, as religious leaders and chaplains, get in there and work with people around their religious spiritual struggles, it will bring down the likelihood that they will have ongoing depression, anxiety. So you can see how the beliefs in a judging God will make things a lot worse. But when people experience us as embodying goodness and providing spiritual care, it can make things a lot better.
Thank you. Albert and Eric, from historical perspective or biblical perspective, what would you like to add to that?
I would add from a historical perspective, since I've been reading too much about pandemics and epidemics now for 5 months, you know, it's interesting. The longer the crisis stays with us, and this is true across the last 500 to 700 years, the longer the epidemiological or pandemic crisis stays with us, the greater the likelihood of significant social and cultural change. The crisis often generates new forms of piety. So we may have experienced Christianity in a certain way last year, and we may be living Christianity in a very different way 24 months from now. Sometimes the changes are good, sometimes the changes are bad. But at some point you go from survival and illness to resiliency, and really almost like a form of creativity. That's unmistakable in the historical record without romanticizing any of this, or even romanticizing the crisis, because there is some of that going on, and it is disturbing. You know, I think it makes theological education even more relevant than some of us might imagine, because in theological education, we have all these resources for rethinking, for reinventing, for reimagining. And one of the things we talk a lot about at Iliff, in addition to social justice, is the ways in which religious traditions seem to be almost programmed for remaking, for revisioning, for reinventing, for revitalizing themselves. And I see that already occurring, but I think, again, the longer that COVID-19 is with us, the greater the likelihood that a lot of things are going to change in ways that we may not even be able to imagine today on whatever the day is, August 28th, 2020. So I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo what Professor Hernandez just said. You know, it seems like there's one outcome of the stresses that Dr. Doring was talking about is the production of difference in the production of violence often comes out of these moments of upheaval. Thinking with the Christian tradition, it's often in these times of unrest that you see things like outbreaks of anti-Semitism or different kinds of othering. So these reconfigurations that we're talking about, I think don't only take a positive form, they can sometimes take a negative form. And it strikes me that we're seeing some of that happen in real time. I heard someone say, Albert, that being a historian right now is like being awake through brain surgery. That you're sort of watching these things happen and you know what's happening, but you can't quite do anything about it. So I think that's part of the task of theological education is to notice the patterns, to notice the ways our traditions and our histories inform us, and to therefore take an ethical stance in the world right now. You know, the stuff that you and I and other people on the faculty study, it's not simply disconnected in the past with nothing to do with us today, but it can inform us, and it does inform us, and it funds in certain kinds of ways the world we live in right now and the changes that we're seeing.
Thank you. I want to push you to a little bit more specific. So you come from 3 different sub-disciplines in theological education. So as you think about your own specific areas, specific foundations of knowledge that your field of research and teaching provide to support the community engagement and social justice and equity, diversity, inclusion, and if so, so how you teach, what you teach can help our students be part of a the change-making agent through their theological education. Why they have to come, they study theology, not politics.
Well, one thing Iliff does really well is teach religious leadership, which is a very complex kind of set of knowledge, skills, and abilities. So right across all the curriculum, you'll be learning a profound respect for religious difference that doesn't smooth over religious difference. That makes a huge that's a huge asset in religious leadership, because it means you will be taught, informed, and learn how to truly respect religious difference. And you can see that in the diversity of our student body. That's why people come to Iliff. Also, social justice is a value rooted in the very origins of Iliff. It's consistent across all the curriculum. And I often think with these sort of deep core values and beliefs, you have to live it and breathe it in order to really take it in and learn how to do that kind of religious leadership. And I sense from so many of your introductions, you're on that path, you're doing that. And now you're going to be part of this community of knowledge and formation where we're all working on that together. And it makes for just an incredible learning community. I mean, that's one of the things I love about teaching at Iliff.
Yeah, you know, I tend to tease students by telling them that history doesn't repeat itself, but I say that more for dramatic effect than because I completely believe that in a literal sense. But at least from the area of the curriculum that I oversee, I really do believe that there is wisdom from the ways in which religious traditions and political systems and individuals have responded to challenges in the past. I just want us to be very careful. You know, COVID-19 is not the Black Death any more than September 11th, 2001 was Pearl Harbor. No two historical moments are identical. No two groups of historical agents are identical. And yet we can learn from the past. And so I tend to encourage students in my classes and you know, from the resources of Iliff, because, you know, there is an Iliff School of Thought that I'm very fortunate to have inherited by coming to a place like this, to a school like this. And the question is, you know, how can we take those resources from a religious tradition or even from a historical tradition and kind of like revitalize them or reinterpret them or reimagine them for a new time and a new place and a new set of challenges? I think that not just my area of study, you know, history, but I think that that cuts across the entire Iliff curriculum. And that may be one of our strengths. And it's not a new strength. It's been with us since the beginning of the school's history. So I would encourage students to think about ways that you can learn your own tradition or whatever it is that you seek to gain from an Iliff education. How can you operationalize that and apply it? This is true of theological education in general, but I think it's particularly true of Iliff because Iliff is so willing to cross boundaries and to invite people to the table of theological education that other institutions are only recently getting around to inviting to theological education.
And, you know, as an example, one of the core missions of the school when it started 128 years ago, supporting, raising ministers who also acknowledge and support the evolution theory. So
there are these great newspaper clippings from Denver in the late 1800s making fun of Iliff for, you know, being in league with Darwin and stuff like that. They're just marvelous.
So Eric, what would you like to say to this, that why studying the Bible can help our students be agent of a social change, that inclusion and diversity and social justice and all these critical issues of our time?
That's a great question. You know, biblical studies is among the theological disciplines in some ways the most traditional, the least tuned in to things like critical theory and least aware maybe of the current moment. That's true sort of when I go to the big Bible meetings where all of us get together, that's really obvious that it's a field that lives a few hundred years in the past often. But not here. Here at Iliff and at other kinds of schools that are the same kind of place we are, there's this awareness that that the Bible, the study of the Bible through these critical tools, through the lenses of things like race and ethnicity, or ecology, or sexuality, or gender, this can be incredibly illuminating of the biblical text and help us see things there that we couldn't see before. And in turn, then the biblical text can tell us things about ourselves that we were not able to see or understand before. You know, a lot of people that I hang out with have sort of rejected Christianity for reasons that I fully understand. I get that. And they rejected the Bible for reasons I fully understand. For me, the question is not whether Christianity in the Bible or not. The question is what kind of Christianity and what kind of reading of the Bible. It seems to me that as sort of an operating system of our culture, it's here and it's going to be powerful and it's going to be influential into the way people think. So if Christianity, then let's do it. Let's do it the right way. Let's do it ethically. Let's do it with commitments to justice and to equality and all these things that Iliff stands for. So I'm glad to be at a place like Iliff where that kind of work is not only allowed, it's not allowed at a lot of places, not only allowed, but it's encouraged, and it fits in with the rest of the curriculum. It's not something that you do after you get the other stuff out of the way. It's something that's completely integrated with the rest of what we do as a school, as a bunch of, as faculty and as students.
Yeah, as a dean, I don't get to teach much, but this spring I'm teaching a class called the Decolonizing Bible Studies. So someone like Eric can decolonizing biblical studies, but I'm working with the students. I'm a practical theologian, so I'm teaching class, you know, because many students are afraid of cutting edge scholarship they learn at seminary, but they don't know how to bring that to local context. What if I lose my job by being so cutting edge? So I'm trying to work with our students. How do we do that in educational process? So decolonizing Bible studies. One last question, which we never thought about. I never asked you before. Thinking about your teaching time at Iliff, can you share one brief, really heartwarming or challenging story that engaging with a student that you're glad that you're at Iliff? Thinking about your classroom experience for the last how many years you have been here, like your engagement with a student.
I can jump in. For a while, we had a program that was funded by the Air Force that would bring Air Force chaplains here for a one-year master's degree in military post-traumatic stress. And it was an amazing experience. We ran it for about 4 years. And I remember we had this one cohort of 4 military chaplains, and they ranged from Methodist, Baptist, Mormon, and Presbyterian Church in America, which is a really conservative denomination. And they formed this really tight cohort. But the fellow from the Presbyterian Church, PCA, after a while, told me this story that all of his friends in the church said, how can you go to Iliff? It's way that way on the left, you know? And he said, you know what? I've never been loved so much. So I got such a kick out of that. Yeah, so it's a really amazing experience. We've had quite a few military chaplains who really want to bring progressive religious beliefs and values and practices into the military. And that's been just an amazing story, especially to keep track of what they're doing now. One of them is in the Pentagon, and yeah, we have some just amazing alums.
Eric or Albert?
I'll share a story that it didn't happen in my class, so I'm not bragging. Well, the story got told in my class. That there's a student, as we're introducing ourselves to begin the fall quarter, it's a class on the Bible, and so I asked, you know, say something about your relationship with the Bible, and this student said, you know, I was raised in a tradition where the Bible was read out loud every Sunday, but as soon as you're confirmed, you know, no one ever pays any attention anymore, and I've never read it since I was, you know, 13 years old or whatever, until the student said she got to the Iliff School of Theology and took the required Hebrew Bible course. And she was actually nervous enough about it that she emailed her academic advisor and said, look, I don't know if I can do this. And the advisor helped talk her through it. And she told the story of going through that course and writing a final paper that was given just, you know, like a page of positive comments by the instructor, and was just really successful as a reading of the Bible, and her realization that yes, she has something to say, and yes, the things she has to say are valuable, and she has a sort of place from which she can engage this tradition that is hers, but also not, and think about all those questions. And that now coming into this next class in biblical studies, she's excited and she's feeling confident and, you know, not afraid of anything. I thought that was really great.
Thank you. Albert, I'm sure you have a lot. Having been here for a long time.
It's hard to think of one. This will be my 20th year at Iliff. I've taught a lot of students, I've had a lot of students in my classes from other religious traditions, non-Christian traditions, Muslim students, Jewish students, Buddhist students. There's one in particular that stands out to me. This was a female Native American student from New Mexico. And I talk a lot in my classes about what does it mean to be human across the boundaries and divides and, you know, race and culture and identity and so forth. And this wasn't really about me, but one day in class, she opened up and said that Iliff had made her feel validated as a Native American who was a non-Christian. And then she shared with us about other schools that she had visited, where she basically had been told that because she was Native American, she wasn't really welcome. And she said it reminded her of growing up on a reservation in New Mexico where, and she grew up on a reservation in New Mexico in the 1980s, which was literally yesterday, right? That's not even that long ago. And she told us that the missionaries had told her not to listen to her grandparents because after all, her grandparents just worshiped demons and they were not Christians. And she said that Iliff, the reason she matriculated at Iliff was because Iliff affirmed her difference, her identity, and didn't make her feel ashamed for being Native American and non-Christian. I mean, I could give you similar examples of Muslim and Jewish students who said similar things to me, but that one in particular really stood out to me because, you know, part of the crisis that we're going through right now is also the denial of the other's humanity. And Iliff is still a work in progress in some ways, but I think that's an area where I think we do pretty well to create an environment where people can come and be free to be who they are. And Iliff has done that for me and for my colleagues on the faculty. I'd like to think we do that for students too. So that's one example that really stands out for me.
Thank you, Albert. This is, I didn't hear these stories from these colleagues myself either, so thank you for sharing that. So Iliff has about 19 full-time faculty, including President Dean, and about 50% of our faculty members are faculty of color, and also female and male is about almost half a half. And we also have, we are one of the few schools that require students to take a comparative religion, that religion other than Christianity or your own tradition. We have a faculty doing that, and we have also artificial intelligence. So one of the newest faculty member who joined us in June, his title is Theology and Post-Human Black Artificial Intelligence System. So he combined the theology, artificial intelligence system, and science and spirituality, and looking at how an artificial intelligence system and Black people's mental health, and he also runs those programs too. So it is very, into traditional schools, it's very weird school. And soon you will join, you know, Dr. Professor Kim, Unju Kim, who teaches preaching, but she is teaching like a public speech beyond, you know, preaching class for congregation, knowing that our students go to also non-ministry context. So I hope that, you know, you heard some pieces of what you will get in your classroom by taking courses with these professors. And then, Eric and Carrie and Dr. Kim Unju will do some sample teaching that you will also experience that in a more concrete ways. So colleagues, thank you for joining me this morning. And I hope that our students had a little, more concrete experience of Iliff. And I'm sure that when you meet also with our advisors, Dr. Sam Ju, and that you will also, you can, without our presence, you can ask her, is this true? So they will be very, very honest. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Lee. Thank you, amazing Iliff faculty. If we can all give a virtual applause. Thank you so much for engaging in the rich dialogue, difficult conversations, certainly where we're at in the world today. With that said, some of you are going to get an opportunity to spend more time with our esteemed faculty in a sample class. We have received your preferences, and in a moment, through the click of a button, you will join the respective faculty and have a even more engaged dialogue around the topic at hand. I know we have maybe one more person that just joined us, and I'll follow up with you to see what your preference may be, but in just a moment, you should be in your virtual classrooms.